Hello friends. Did you know that an estimated 1 out of every 2 girls in Burkina Faso gets married before she reaches the age of 18? The age of consent refers to the age at which people are legally permitted to engage. There is no universally accepted age of consent, and this figure varies from country to country. Although the world has seen a decline in recent times, this problem still exists in some countries. A landlocked country in West Africa, Burkina Faso is known for its natural beauty and colorful culture. Behind this alluring beauty, however, is a sad and disturbing reality for many young girls. In this episode, we explore the factors that drive this practice and some efforts that are being made to put an end to it. Don't forget to subscribe if you like our content. A clear and present danger. Burkina Faso ranks 7th among the countries with the highest rates of child marriage on Earth. UNICEF estimates that slightly above half of the country's female population got married before they clocked 18. The age gap between the girls and their husbands in these early marriages can be up to 60 or more. Girls can be married to old men who already have several wives and children. Young girls can be promised to men shortly after birth or in their early childhood. In light of the dreadful picture which these statistics paint, it may come as a surprise to some to learn that child marriage is prohibited by Burkinabe law. The Burkina Faso Family Code, the law which governs issues related to marriage in the country, places the age of consent at 17 for girls and 20 for males. However, this law only applies to civil marriages, which is the only formally recognized type of marriage in the country. Other forms of marriage, such as traditional and religious marriage, are also widely practiced in the country, although not legally recognized. In these alternative systems, the minimum age for marriage can get as low as 10 or 13. In the traditional context, girls' fathers or the oldest men in the family arrange marriage matches for the young females without their consent, and in some cases, without their knowledge. Early marriage causes a wide range of problems for young Burkinabe girls. For example, as young girls' reproductive systems are yet to be fully developed, they normally face consequences such as fistula after childbirth. Girls' education is another area in which early marriage has negatively impacted girls in the country. Amnesty International estimates that only around 65% of Burkinabe girls have access to education. However, many of these girls have to leave school rather early for their husbands' houses. Many families feel they have little to gain from shouldering the cost of school fees from girls when the girls will soon be married into another family. Meanwhile, there is some concern regarding domestic abuse in the country. Nearly 70% of women in the country have experienced some form of violence and abuse from their partners. Why does forced marriage exist? Families are driven to force their daughters into early marriages by a variety of different factors. A major driving factor behind this is poverty. According to the World Bank, 4 in every 10 Burkinabes live under the poverty line. Many families struggle to feed their members and meet their basic needs. This means that girls are often viewed as additional burdens or strains upon the family's meager resources. On the other hand, suitors pay dowries which can include money and livestock to a girl's parents. Agricultural land may also be given. These payments can help the family economically. Girls can also be given out in marriage as a form of payment for services rendered to their parents. A 15-year-old girl reported that her father tried to marry her to a herder as payment for herding her father's cattle. Moreover, virginity is traditionally highly regarded and closely linked to family honor and prestige. Females who engage in premarital sex or get pregnant outside wedlock are seen as symbols of shame to their families. Many families see early marriage as a means to prevent this from taking place. Furthermore, in Burkinabe's largely communalistic society, families can use marriage to advance their social standing and build valuable relationships with powerful or wealthy families. In addition to this, very young brides are deemed highly desirable in local traditions and cultures. A legal solution. Burkina Faso's problem has persisted largely because of the absence of adequate laws to combat this menace. To solve this issue, several legislative changes have been carried out in recent times. For example, the country has adopted the National Child Protection Strategy 2019 to 2023 and its Operational Action Plan and the National Action Plan to Combat Child Violence. These legal instruments offer protection to children who are often the hardest hit by domestic violence. At the forefront of the fight for stricter laws against child marriage are organizations such as the National Coalition Against Child Marriage in Burkina, CONAMEB. These organizations work to engage with stakeholders and strategic partners to advocate and galvanize support for anti-child marriage laws. However, This is a work in progress, and more engagements are still required to produce pieces of proposed legislation that would be acceptable to all stakeholders in society. Although a lot of advances have been made regarding laws to protect girls from forced marriages, proper implementation remains a key challenge. Many forced marriages are carried out in rural areas under traditional customs and are heavily underreported. There is also the fact that there is no universally applicable law regarding the matter. While the absence of consent is valid grounds for divorce in a civil marriage, this may not apply in a religious or traditional marriage. These factors make the implementation of anti-child marriage legislation rather challenging. Activists recognize these limitations and therefore rely on community-based advocacy initiatives to change mindsets in local communities regarding child marriage. A community-centered solution. While efforts are on to produce the legal frameworks necessary to curtail forced marriages and its impacts, another solution is already underway. Various individuals and activists are working with community leaders and religious figures to advocate for a change in social attitudes toward the topic. Social programs are also being rolled out to orientate people at the grassroots level. An example of this is Mambui's School for Future Husbands. In a country where women and girls have historically been treated as second-class citizens and maltreated by their husbands, this school is sparking a behavioral revolution. The institution is sponsored with funding from the United Nations and World Bank, among other organizations, and aims at improving the lives of women and girls. In this school, local men are encouraged to have discussions concerning birth control and maternity issues, women's rights, intra-family relations, etc. These discussions are guided by a trained facilitator and give men the opportunity to learn from their shared experiences, receive valuable information, and air their concerns and grievances. Men are also given access to educational resources and are coached on related issues. This approach is already yielding results. In the village of Mambui in western Burkina Faso, where this school has made its debut, community members and women have reported marked improvements in their men's behaviors. Husbands are increasingly helping out their wives with domestic chores, which were traditionally considered jobs for women. Wives have also noted the reduction in tension within their families. With the improved family harmony, experts predict that the village of Mambui will see an improvement in its human capital development. It now remains to be seen whether the School for Husbands model can be utilized to achieve the same effect in other areas of the country and the world at large where it has been implemented. Meanwhile, efforts are being made to interface and engage with national decision makers. For example, organizations such as Save the Children visit policymakers and political leaders in the country to canvass their support against forced marriage. Furthermore, there are now several shelters run by religious and charitable groups where girls can seek safety when faced with the threat of forced marriage. One of these, the St. Maria Goretti shelter in the city of Kaya, now plays host to over 100 girls. In these shelters, the girls are educated and cared for by aid workers.